Here. Hi, everybody. Welcome to my little book club live that I've been trying to do on somewhat of a regular basis. But we've been probably meeting like once every like maybe 6 to 8 weeks here. And I didn't do a very good job of advertising for this one because I have been in a little drama mode. So tonight I'll share my story, but we are going to be talking about Carly Fortune's One Golden Summer. And I loved this book. In fact, it was a really quick read. I feel like I've been reading some classics pretty consistently, and classics always take me a very long time to get through. I usually do a combination of the Audible version and the written version. There's a lot of like going back to things. And this was just like a breath of fresh air to sit down and read like a true summer fun book. And it was phenomenal. I really enjoyed her reading style, but her writing style. We will talk more about that in a bit. Probably going to be here for about 45 minutes to an hour. Hi, Julianne. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. I'm so sorry I didn't advertise more for book club this month. I didn't even put it in YouTube. I just posted on Instagram. But I am going to Italy this week and I lost my passport. As you know, or may not know, I was in Europe in June and we went to Amsterdam and we went to Paris. And that was where I got all my Louise Carmen notebooks and I switched over all my wallets and stuff like that. I came home with my passport, obviously. Anyways, I won't bore you with the details, but I lost it. And we realized on Saturday that it had been missing for a while. Hi, Susie Lane. Thank you so much for joining us. Hi from Maryland and Wisconsin. Hey. Anyways, I spent all day today, well, a portion of the day in Boston at the passport agency to like do an expedited emergency thing. And I needed to bring an itinerary for our trip to Italy and all the proof stuff, my birth certificate. I don't even know. My mind is like toast right now, but we were working all weekend to try to find it and then we couldn't find it. And so at one point I was just like, we just have to do this, but I've secured the passport. Hey, Laura, how are you? Laura was my co-host for when we did A Court of Thorns and Roses. Am I saying that right? Is that the name of the book? And she wasn't able to join us tonight, but she's here in the chat. So happy to see you. Laura has been my inspiration. She is a reading fiend lately, but she leans more towards fantasy. And I love that because she's getting me into it a little bit. I've opened my mind a little bit to the world of fantasy novels. But I feel like I've been in a zone lately. I think I've had a couple books going at all times. And tonight we are talking about One Golden Summer. So I figure we'll talk a little bit, well, for a while about this. And then I have all sorts of books and suggestions for fall. I feel like summer feels like it was a year ago and it was only a little while. We are actually still technically in summer, but I feel like everybody's talking about cozy fall books. So that is something we will be discussing at the end tonight. Yes, Julie, I'm very excited. I do have a book for Italy. I couldn't resist this little cheesy When in Rome. This looked like a really quick book that I could read on the flight there. So this is my little, hopefully we'll read in a couple of days. But this I thought moved really quickly too. I'm curious for the people who are in the chat, did you read the first book? I did not know that there was a first book to this. Every Summer After, is that the right one? And it follows the story of our leading man's brother and his sister-in-law. And so there was a little bit of a spoiler in this, and somebody did warn me about that when we chose this book. And I'm bummed because I really enjoyed this book and I would definitely go back to read the first book in the series. But this follows a young woman. Well, she's in her 30s, young to me. Her name is Alice, and she is pretty hardworking and, a little uptight. She has a very free-flowing sister, and she is a photographer. And her grandmother, she's very close with, Nan, and she breaks her hip. And they decide for her recuperation, they're going to go to the lake that they went to all her life growing up. And while she was at the lake, when she was 17 years old, her grandmother gave her a camera and she fell in love with photography. And being at the lake kind of reminds her of her youth when she was so passionate about photography. She's now stuck in a job where things get over edited and she feels like a lot of her creativity is stifled in her career. So she happens to take a photograph. This is the photograph when she's 17 years old of three young teens. Well, actually, they're all approaching 20, I would say, in this photo. And she kind of feels like an outsider and she just loves it's like one of her favorite photographs. And she saves it all these years. And I think she wins an award for it. And fast forward, she goes to the lake with her grandmother. And of course, one of the boys from that photo is the caretaker for the house that she and her grandmother are staying at. And that begins the romance of Alice and Charlie. And it's really well done. They have great banter. I love a book with good banter. Keitha is saying, although the characters cross over, they really are standalone stories. You'll still enjoy the earlier book about Sam and Percy. Okay. I think that it's just the spoiler that I know that has, that bums me out, but I love their characters. So I will probably go back and read that. But this is what I love about Carley Fortune. I started like watching some videos with her. She seems like the girl next door. Like she seems like somebody I would want to go have coffee with. She is adorable. And I love her writing style. I feel like she does steamy very well. I feel like some books can like overdo it or maybe they're too graphic. And I feel like, I don't know what you all think in the comments, but I feel like some of the hot steamy scenes were perfect. I feel like they were really well done without being like too much. I liked them. You guys will have to let me know what you think. What did we say? I love reading books set in the locale I'm visiting. Did you visit? Is it Barry? What is the name of this lake? She is a Canadian author and it does take place there. And I was reading, I was watching one of the videos she did. I don't know if it was with Lara from Good Morning America or it was some other interview, but they said that she was saying that in order to reach a broader audience, a lot of people will make their stories setting be in the United States someplace. And she felt pretty passionately about making it in her home in Canada. So I thought that was a great position to take. I'm not familiar with the lake that they're at, but it does exist. So I thought that was really cool that she stayed true to her own roots. I personally love to read books that take place in New England and Boston, Massachusetts, Maine. I love it. So I totally understand that. And I think I would feel the same way. Hey, Lisa, you made it. Welcome, welcome. So glad that you're here. So Every Summer After, is that the other book? Yes, I've placed them on hold at my library. That's the first book in the series. And she did also say that there's already an adaptation being made for Every Summer After. I don't know when that interview was, probably at the beginning of the summer because this book came out this summer. And, but she didn't know who the characters were. And I thought it was interesting because she said that Charlie and Alice were blurry to her. Like, I think Lara Spencer was saying, you must know exactly who you think you would want. And she's like, actually, I don't. Like the characters, I don't know exactly who I would choose for them. So if you guys have any ideas who you would pick for Percy and Sam, you can let us know in the comments. Some of her books are set in Toronto, where I lived most of my life. Oh, that is so cool. That is great. Julie likes East Coast stories too. I do, especially in the fall. We'll talk about that later, but I'm definitely looking for some cozy fall books that take place here in New England or East Coast in general. So Carley, the author, has generously provided us with some book club questions at the back of her story, which I thought was really good. I finished the book and I was like, oh, this is going to be great. She's got some book club questions. I can't see anyone else in the chat. Is that just me? You may have to make shrink the screen a little bit so you can see the chat. You should be able to see it. Does everybody else see the chats? I don't they should be available for you to see. Let me know if you can fix that. I liked this question a lot because there's a lot of references to Alice being a people pleaser. And she had just gotten out of a bad relationship. Well, she thought she was going to marry the guy, and she and he was also kind of like a safe choice, or so she thought. So she's very guarded, and I would say that Charlie is very guarded too. And when she gets to the lake, she makes a bucket list, and he gets his hands on it, and they kind of check off things on the bucket list all summer, which I think is really fun. Um, and they kind of become friends with benefits, but not like full on benefits. Like I feel like there's a lot of, it's a little bit of a slow burn, their relationship, I guess. Well, they're the finale of their relationship doesn't happen until towards the end. But there's a lot of playfulness that happens in the meat of the story. Hey, Monica, I'm so glad you made it too. Welcome. Welcome to book club. Sorry that I was so last minute in getting this on the books. Didn't read the first one, but the second one was great. So yes, same here, Lisa. I read this one. I did not read the first one. So there's a lot of reference to Alice being a kind of a perfectionist and a people pleaser. And I love, don't you? I feel like her hair is like a character in the story. There's this, I don't know. I just picture her with her curly hair, just messy and, just all over the place in the summer wind. And then she goes to an art gallery at one point and she pins it up. And like, I feel like when her hair's up, she's in like work mode. And then when her hair's down, she's at the lake. And I don't know, that I think the author does such a beautiful job of illustrating the characters and really making you feel like you're on that lake. So it really is like an escape. And I think it's wonderful. It was a fantastic summer read. I loved it. So do you think, oh, where are we? How do you relate to Alice's struggles with people pleasing and perfectionism? So for my friends here in the chat, do you consider yourself a perfectionist? Do you relate more to Alice as a character or her wild sister? What's her sister's name? I forget. I just finished reading Wuthering Heights today. And I finished this probably 2 weeks ago. So this is like my brain is detoxing a little bit from Wuthering Heights to get into One Golden Summer. But what was her sister's name? She was a hoot. I really liked her. She kind of pushed Alice and was always like encouraging her to like get back into the relationship and or get back into a relationship, and was always curious about Charlie. I'm definitely a people pleaser. I am more of a people pleaser than I am a perfectionist by a lot. I don't know how you guys are. Julie says, I'm a people pleaser, hard to say no, and always trying to help. Oh, yeah. You sound wonderful, Julie, but sometimes we end up taking the hit, right? When we're doing things for other people all the time. I feel like I've learned a lot from my husband because he is not a people pleaser and he's a big boundaries guy. And I've learned from him because I am a huge people pleaser. And I just want to make sure everybody's comfortable, everybody's happy. And I have a hard time saying no, but I'm getting better at it. I wish I was more of a perfectionist, but I'm not. Maybe with certain things in my life. I have to learn the hard way to say no and to hear no. Yeah. The other thing that I've tried to do now that I'm in my 50s is not give an explanation. Whenever I would like decline an invitation, I would have to like write a novel to go with it. Like, I'm so sorry. Like I had an appointment and then I tried to reschedule so I could go to your event, but then this came up and I have to bring my dog to the vet. My husband's just like, just say you can't go, you know? So that is something I'm working on. And now you can just say, I'm so sorry I can't make it. I'm so sorry I won't be there. And you have to give an explanation, right? It's very liberating. Laura is a perfectionist. Laura is a good friend of mine. She has a YouTube channel that is phenomenal. And yes, I can see that about you, Laura, being a perfectionist. And sometimes when you're a perfectionist, it can paralyze you a little bit. And with regards to this relationship, I think that she is very guarded because Charlie, the way they describe Charlie, I'm really curious to see who's going to play him. He's got, you know, beautiful green eyes and the dark tousled hair. And I mean, he sounds like a god. I mean, but he really plays it up. I think if, correct me if I'm wrong, for anybody who read the first book, it sounds like he's very much a player. And he really is taken with Alice and, you know, how like the banter between them and how she's not like other girls, of course. And kind of gives him a run for his money, and he really likes that. But then she'll be in town and they'll be like, "Oh, Charlie," like the women in town are talking about him, and he clearly seems to have had his pick of women. And so she's very guarded because of that as well. But they decide to kind of just be friends. But then they find themselves always wanting to be together. There's also a part of Charlie that I think is really endearing, that I'm sure won over a lot of us who read the book. And that is how kind he is to her grandmother. Like I would want to be a fly on the wall, and like he would come in and he would have dinner with Nan, or he would rearrange furniture for her because she had just had surgery and the furniture was heavy so she wouldn't like trip. And he's just so sweet with her. And then also he is an uncle to Percy and Sam's baby. Well, Percy is pregnant for most of it, but he's building a tree house, and you kind of see this softer side to him, and you kind of love it. He's adorable. I mean, his character is written very well. So I love that. Lisa says the setting of the lake in town seemed quite cozy and inviting. Absolutely. I think the author has a gift for that. I read, I don't know if it was in the spring, Hotel Nantucket by Ellen Hildebrand, and that was also a really cool read just for the environment, the setting of it. It is, I think I don't know. Sometimes I will read the jacket of a book or the synopsis, and if it takes place in a place that doesn't interest me, it really is a turnoff for me. Or just, you know, there are so many books that you can read, and there's so much to choose from that if it doesn't like grab me right away, I just move on to the next one, because I feel like my list, my TBR, to be read books, that list is just growing by the day. So if something doesn't grab me right away, I have a hard time. And that's also why I picked up When in Rome. And then I have another book that I grabbed for Amsterdam called What Happens in Amsterdam. And they're both like really light, easy reads that are just kind of fun for the plane that I can power through. I tend to be like very polarizing with what I read. I'm either reading a classic that is like taking me a long time to get through, or I'm reading something that's pretty light. So I kind of want to shoot for something in between, maybe for our next book club selection. Ellen, or I don't know. I don't know her spelling. I think it's traditional Ellen, but I might be wrong. So speaking of Ellen Hildebrand, she just came out with a book that she wrote with her daughter. Which one is it? And I keep going back to it because it takes place in a boarding school in New England. But it's just too young for me. I don't know. It sounds adorable. I feel like my daughter would love it. But again, I feel like I have to be selective with my book choices. And I was so drawn to it because I feel like Ellen Hildebrand always writes about summer, and this was a fall book. So I was like, oh, this looks kind of cool. Is it called The Academy? And I keep looking at it, and every time I read it, I'm like, yeah, I would have loved this when I was 18. So I think that's why she co-wrote it with her daughter. But I don't know. Let me know what you all think. Who is the When in Rome author? Sarah Adams. Never read. This was a total impulse buy. Jay and I were at a bookstore, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to get this because we're flying into Rome. We're flying into Rome, and then we're doing what we're calling a heritage tour. We're going to where our ancestors are from, which is Alvito, which is northeast of Rome. Alvito, and oh gosh, we're going to Assisi. Our family isn't from there, and the one that my family's from, I can't think of it right now. And then we're driving through Tuscany and Florence, and then we're taking a train to Venice, to when we're staying 2 nights in Venice, and then we're training back to Rome. So we're gonna start and end in Rome, so I thought that that was kind of cute. Hi, Jacqueline, how are you? Sylvia, I feel like I just saw something. What is she the author of? Did she do something that's, dark academia? I was literally just looking at books before I went live, and her name, I swear, came up. So I'm not familiar. I haven't read anything from her. Keith says, I feel like Charlie is a product of his small town environment, which I think contributes to his charm. I feel like big city boys are way different and not always in a good way. Oh, Jacqueline, that's why I have Mexican Gothic on my shelf. It was one of our book club choices a few months ago, but it didn't get selected. So I have the book. That's why it's ringing a bell. Keitha, I think you make a great point. And there's something so charming about like the small town boy, is there not? Um, and the fact that they have this ritual of going to the lake every summer, and the kind of the similar memories that they share, even though they're not together when they're younger. It's actually one of the regrets I've had as a parent, because we never really had a place that we went to every single summer for my kids, and they talk about it now, and honestly, it breaks my heart. So now I'm like, we have to get a place for the grandkids that we don't have. But I think there's something really special about those small town experiences, and some of the places we visited through the years. um, there may just be like a general store and like a coffee shop and a pizza place, and that's all you need, and the lake and your friends and your family and all the memories. So Charlie definitely has that going for him. Yeah, it's like when you watch the Hallmark Channel, and there's the contrast between like the big city guys, the big corporate guys on the phone, and then she'll go home to visit her parents, and she'll bump into like the boy next door sort of thing. So Charlie kind of has that charm about him. I totally agree. Um, Takes the grandmother out on the boat, right? He's adorable. He really is. And then they go skinny dipping. Like that's one of the things on her bucket list. Um, they do a lot of fun things. And I love the checking off of the bucket list and how she got there and wrote it. And it was not for his eyes. And then he gets his hands on it. But then he kind of, they go on one date, I believe. It's kind of like in the center of the book. And they check off a couple things on the bucket list. And it's just really endearing. But then he's holding back. All right. So one of the like, I think this would have been like a 4-star book for me. It's like somewhere between 3.5 and 4 for me. But I felt like the ending, like the reason he was holding back so much, uh, it wasn't as powerful as I kind of had hoped it would be, like why he would shut down this whole relationship with someone he clearly cared about and was in love with. Um, it was health related, but it wasn't. I don't know. I don't know if I'm being insensitive, and I don't mean to be at all. But I felt like there was going to be like a stronger reveal at the end. Did anybody else feel that way, or was I just, I don't know. It was great. It tied it together. It definitely made sense, but it wasn't super impactful for me. So I'm curious, those of you who read the book, what did you think? Similar, or it totally checked the box for you? Hmm. You kind of felt like it was going to be something health wise, right? Because he had lost his dad when his dad was young. But yeah, I think that was a tiny bit of a letdown. I love that, they had a little bit of time away. Um, and I love, at what point in the book, this is totally off topic, but at what point in the book did it- did did they realize this was probably a big part of the book, and it's escaping me right now. But when they realized that the photo that she took was of Charlie and Percy and Sam, I don't think she revealed that to him until later in the book. Um, oh, I I'm like, my ADD is really bad tonight because I'm so tired. Another part that was like one of my favorite parts of the book, he was such a badass in this scene, was when they kind of ambush her because she doesn't want to do the art gallery that her friend is doing. And her father calls. It's like her father and her sister on the phone. And I think Nan is even in on it. And they're kind of ganging up on her because she doesn't want to go to this art gallery. She doesn't want to do this event. And Charlie's in the room and like listening. And at one point they say something like, "Well, what do you think? What do you think, Charlie?" Because she keeps expressing that she doesn't want to do it. And he says something like, "I think she told you all." And they all think that he's going to hop on board and be like, "You should go, you should do it. You're missing this opportunity." And Charlie sees how uncomfortable she is, and he says something like, "I think she's made it very clear that she doesn't want to be there and you all should mind your own business." And he like hangs up the phone on her father. And on one hand, you think, oh my God, that's disrespectful. And then on the other hand, you think, oh my gosh, he is totally going to bat for her and only her. And that I thought was a great scene. That made me really like Charlie. Did that make you love Charlie more? Or were you like, ooh, that was not a good move? I loved it. I loved that move. Let me see if we have another question here. The Bewitching Jacqueline. I don't know that book. Oh, Mexican Gothic was like in the running. I also finally finished. I've been busy with my books. I also finished Back Bay. That was really good too. But yeah, so it's 8:26. If you guys have any more thoughts on our book here, I feel like we need wine for book club. Okay, let me just see if we have a couple more questions. Alice finds joy in taking photographs just for the fun of it while she's at the lake. When was the last time you took on a creative project for your own pleasure? Oh, that's a nice question. I like that. I think it's really hard to do things just for fun because everybody's so busy. And I think when she's at the lake, she gets back in tune with what really makes her tick. And one of the photo editors that she's working with, they want her to like touch up a photo in the beginning. And she wants so badly to disagree with her and say, no, I'm leaving it as is. And that's like a struggle with her throughout the beginning part of the book. And at one point she pushes back and she says, I'm not going to edit the photos. And she thinks that, she's going to lose this account, but it actually earns her more respect. And the purpose of her being at the lake is to try to get back in touch when she just did things just for the joy of stuff. And somehow some things we start doing for the joy, and then somewhere along the line, we lose that. Sometimes I feel that way about YouTube and thrifting in my main channel, where I started because I just loved thrifting so much. And I just wanted to share my thrift finds with everybody. And I've been doing it now for 7 years. And I've sold over 11,000 items. And sometimes it just feels like I'm just getting stuff just for a YouTube video. And I hate that feeling. So I've really made an effort to kind of change the trajectory of that channel because I was losing what felt so good to me in the past, just for like the sake of a haul. So I've changed that, and now I enjoy thrifting more again. I love that she stood her ground with not editing the photos. Yes, Chelsea, I agree. And she wasn't feeling that strength in the beginning of the book. So as Lisa points out, I love the growth of herself as a photographer. That's part of her growth, is just being true to what she wants. And then capturing all the photos. And what about the end when she takes a self-portrait of herself with like no clothes on? I thought that was really bold. And because she doesn't like to be in front of the camera. So that was also like a big moment for her. I liked that part as well. Um, Keith says, my favorite quote, um, girl in the book, when she was watching the kids jump from the rock across the lake, I watched them do it again and again, climbing and then jumping one after another with a pang. I love that. That just reminds you of youth, right? Just doing things over and over. You remember going to like water park slides and you just couldn't get enough? It was like how many times you could run as fast as you can up the stairway to go down the slide again. Yeah, I feel like that's a really great image of youth and like a feeling that a lot of us would love to get back, right? I love that. That's a great quote. I love it so much. Um, in my chest, it's sadder than longing, softer than envy. What is that in reference to? That's good too. Keith pulling out the quotes. I love it. Keeping us on task. Um, yeah, I need to start writing more quotes down when I'm doing my journaling. I tend to just kind of write a little bit as I go sometimes with my books. The rest of that quote. Oh, okay. I want to read that again then. I watched them do it again and again, climbing, then jumping, one after another, with a pang in my chest. Oh, it's sadder than longing, softer than envy. Oh, yeah. That makes it way more powerful with the end. Sadder than longing and softer than envy. That's a really good one. I'm trying to think of a situation when I felt that way, you know? Um, Julie, which one are you looking for? You looking for this book at the library? Which one? So what do we think about the reveal, which I think obviously happens in the first book, but when you realize what happened with Percy, that was like a whoa for me. But I didn't read the first book, and I think that was part of the first book. Um, that was a real twist for me to read that. Love that quote. Yeah, I do too. Maybe every book club, I should bring my favorite quote to the table, or we all can find our favorite quote from the book and we can jot them down if we like them. I really like that one a lot. It's great. Um, Somebody in my DMs, and I don't even know if I responded to them. If it's you, I'm so sorry if I didn't get back to you, but they talked about, they requested that for future book clubs that I try to stay away from a series, which makes sense to kind of try to do a standalone book because we did the Thursday Murder Club, which just came out on Netflix. If anybody read that, it's really adorable. The cast is fantastic. I read them so far apart, I didn't even realize they were connected at first. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, and then we did the Court of Thorns and Roses, but we just did the first book. And now I selected this, not knowing that there was a first book for this. As I mentioned when I started book club, I am not like an avid reader. I started this book club primarily to push myself to read more and to just connect with people through books because as I say, it's my reading era. I've not historically been a big reader. I will probably read like one or two books a year. And this year I'm trying to read 25 books, which will be the most I've ever read in my life. So a lot of the books that I'm discovering and the authors that I'm discovering at 52, I'm discovering for the first time. So this has been so much fun for me. I love watching reviews on books. I love talking about books now. I love journaling about the books I'm reading. So it's been really a fun journey, but I will keep in mind for our next book selection that I'll try to stay away from a series if I can. So what do we think? Were you guys all shocked when you found out what happened with Charlie and Percy? And did that change your view on him as a character? It took me a little while to recover from that. But I get it. I mean, he was young. I think it happened when he was 20 in the story and he's in his mid 30s. So you do have to chalk some of it up to youth, but, that was a big twist, and if you read the first book, was that was revealed in the first book, I believe, um, which I think is interesting. All right. Anything else? Keitha, I feel like you've been so good at keeping the conversation going. What are your top 5 things on your ideal summer bucket list? Is there something you'd wanna do in the summer that's on your bucket list? Not even top 5, just 1. If everybody can think of 1 bucket list thing for next summer, I wanna hear it. Another author to consider is Fiona Davis. She writes stories set in iconic New York City buildings, weaves in some historical context. The Spectacular is set in the fall at Radio City Music Hall. Ooh, that sounds fun. That sounds really fun. You're not telling us what's on your bucket list? Books have essentially saved my life as a young girl. Anne Rice was my favorite. Oh, I love that. I am so intrigued by people who, reading is such a part of their identity, you know, because it has not been for me. Hi, handsome. You wanna come up and say hi? What's up? You're jumping up. Um So yeah, I also like Keitha, anything that I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. I love a little historical fiction reference. So that's the Back Bay book that I just read was historical. Well, it was definitely a tale. There was historical things woven through the story. The story was not historical. Um, but it was really fun. Yeah, maybe that's historical fiction. I would love a classic, maybe a title by Charlotte Bronte. Well, okay, should we my hubby wants to go to Europe as a family. Ooh, oh, you're talking bucket list. You guys will have such a great time. Forgot to say in the 1950s. Oh, that's the Spectacular. Ooh, that sounds like fun. That does sound like fun. Um, so I read Jane Eyre last year, and it was one of my favorite books ever. And I just finished Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. So I read Charlotte Bronte last summer. I read Emily Bronte this summer. Well, just this fall, I should say. And now I finished this, and now there are so many parts of this that I want to go back to and reread. And I think that's what's great about certain books that keep you coming back, where you want to go back and reread chapters or get to know the characters better or listen to a book club discussion. So I was going to put Wuthering Heights. I wasn't going to do Charlotte Bronte, but I was going to do Emily Bronte as one of our choices for book club. I try to put a classic in every option every time we do book club, but I find that so I've read that. So and there's a new movie coming out in February of 2026 with Margot Robbie. But it's from the director of Saltburn. I don't know if any of you saw Saltburn, but it looks like soft porn Wuthering Heights. So we don't really know what to expect from this, but it's going to be interesting. There's a lot of hype over it right now. If you Google it, the Wuthering Heights movie, it's pretty controversial. There's all sorts of drama around it, which makes me want to see it even more. It's going to be fun. But yeah, it looks highly erotic. Exactly, it does. And I really don't get that in the book at all. I mean, Emily Bronte wrote this when she was how old? She died when she was 30. So I think she wrote this right before she passed away. Haven't heard of Jane Eyre since my teen years. Would love to read Wuthering Heights. Count me in. You know, I would honestly, even if we select a different book other than Wuthering Heights, if we want to do something like a little bit lighter, or perhaps we could talk about 2 books because I already read Wuthering Heights. So if we want to choose another one, I would love to discuss this. I feel like I'm going to need someone sitting with me for Wuthering Heights. I'm missing Laura this week because it was fun to have somebody to get the conversation going. Jane Eyre was phenomenal. They're very different. I like Jane Eyre better Wuthering Heights is just very dark, very dark. And I loved the character development of Jane Eyre. Um, Laura says, I love that people are calling it 50 Shades of Bronte. That's really funny, Laura. Yeah, just based on that trailer, man. It's very 50 Shades coded. Mm. It's one way to get people to read the classics, right? You got to do what you got to do. But I did enjoy this. Laura and I were just discussing this today, and we were saying like I'm so happy that I read it, but it's not. I like Jane Eyre. Jane is more of a commitment. This was faster. But yeah, that can definitely be one of our books. I wrote down a couple of other books. Have you heard of Jasper Ford? I think it's how it's spelled. The Eyre Affair is a take on that novel. Ooh, that would be fun. I would love to read that. Some other book. Oh, has anybody ever read The Secret History by Donna Tartt? I was looking up dark academia books because I wanted something that for our next book that was like moody and maybe dark academic, but not like full on like horror Halloween because it's still September. So I was thinking that maybe like a dark academia, like thriller type of book would still feel those fall vibes, but it wouldn't feel like Halloween. You know what I mean? But the way that I do book club, we probably won't even meet until closer to the end of October because we're already halfway through September. So The Secret History by Donna Tartt. Have you heard? You'd have to read the description. Okay, I'm going to write that down. The Eyre Affair. I'm going to write that down because that sounds like something I would really enjoy. So The Secret History, if I just read this has phenomenal reviews, and it doesn't sound like your average mystery. It's a group of eccentric, kind of elitist students, and a murder happens in their presence. I'm really not doing this justice. And it's kind of the unfolding of it. But I think there's some. Hold on. The Secret History. Your sister read it. Okay. Well, hopefully you can maybe give a better description than I'm giving. Secret History. Let me just see here. Sorry, friends. Secret History is a novel by Donna Tartt published in 1992 that follows a group of classics students at an elite New England college who delve into a destructive quest for the transcendent, leading to a murder and the psychological aftermath of the group, narrated by one of the students. The story is a dark academia thriller that functions as a whodunit, revealing the killers and the murder early on, but focusing on the events leading up to it, with the lasting consequences. Oh, that's interesting. So you kind of know who was the killer in the beginning, and then you backtrack the why. That sounds interesting. Yeah, because that had like the mystery, the murder, the academic setting, the New England setting. So that was interesting to me. What's another one? I have Wuthering Heights, The Secret History. Oh, I wrote down The Life and Legacy of Jane Birkin. Laura, you'll probably like that book, but that's not coming out until October. That's a biography. This one sounded funny to me, and the reviews were really good. Story of My Life by Lucy Score. In the description, it said Schitt's Creek meets Gilmore Girls. And I thought, oh my gosh, that sounds fantastic. I loved Schitt's Creek so much. So that looks very light though. Julie, my husband is reading Frankenstein. This is actually on my list because it's a classic. And my understanding is it's a smaller novel. I think it's pretty doable. I don't think it's an overwhelming book. So Frankenstein, I think, would be really fun. And it's a female author as well. I'm getting ready to do a video on this channel about the writer series from Mont Blanc, because I feel like there's a lot of a lot of women who aren't represented in their series, and Mary Shelley is one of them. That would be a really fun classic to read. Um, if we did Wuthering Heights and Frankenstein, it would be a heavy month. But I will come up with some choices, and we make sure you follow me over on Instagram. We'll vote over there. Definitely leave me your recommendations here in the comments, because I'm not going to do a separate video. I'm just going to choose the book, and I kind of want to choose it before I leave for Italy. So I would like to do it sooner than later. I'm not sure if this would qualify as dark academia, but the plot by Jean Haniff. Ooh, I don't know. I mean, I would love a mystery. I love a mystery. So I think that would be fantastic. Did you also see that they're doing a movie of The Housemaid with Sigrid? What's her last name? Love the idea of Frankenstein in October. Okay, Debbie, let's do that. Let's do for Wuthering Heights. If you want to do the classics, I will also probably choose something lighter. But since clearly I can't focus for 1 hour on one book, we might as well talk about a few. So we'll do Frankenstein in October, because I did want to read that. My husband and I are trying to read some books together, and I know Frankenstein he's reading next. So I will definitely read Frankenstein. I already read Wuthering Heights. So if anybody wants to read that, let me know. And then I will probably choose just kind of maybe something a little bit lighter. I was also thinking about a book about a bookshop. I have the Little Paris Bookshop, which looks cute. I also have, Agatha Christie is another one. And Then There Were None. Agatha Christie would be great for this time of year. This was something that I don't know if I ever put this on our list. The Last House Guest. This is a Reese Witherspoon recommendation book club. Amanda Siegfried. Thank you, Lisa. Yes, you're writing it a lot better than I said it, because I could not get her name out of my brain. Yes, Amanda Siegfried. And also there's another one who plays the housemaid. She's a youngin. You could probably Google it, just like me. Housemaid movie. Sydney Sweeney, and Amanda Seyfried, Seyfried. That looks good. Paris Bookshop, yes. Want me to read this? Because this seems fun. Monsieur Perdue is a literary apothecary. From his floating bookstore in the barge on the Seine, he prescribes novels for the hardships of life, using his intuitive feel for the exact book a reader needs. Perdue mends broken hearts and souls. The only person he can't seem to heal is himself. He's still haunted by heartbreak after his great love disappeared. She left him with only a letter that he has never opened. After Perdue is finally tempted to read the letter, he hauls anchor and departs on a mission to the south of France, hoping to make peace with his loss and discover the end of the story. Yeah, he chooses books for other people, and he has a knack for choosing just the right book. I'm all in for all of these books. We're in trouble. Anybody else interested in the Little Paris Bookshop? This looks really cute to me. But I'm seeing some interest come through here. And I also have The Tenant, who is the same author as Housemaid. I'm trying to see the books that I have on my shelf already, instead of buying more, but I'm all for buying more too. Anyways, I will make sure that these are all selections. But maybe we'll definitely do Wuthering Heights and Frankenstein. So we'll discuss those in October. And then if we have a light one, we can discuss 3 books, right? And if anybody wants to join me on the stage, let me know. We can chat, because it's a lot more fun when there's 2 of us. And I'll see if Laura comes back. Laura and I are typically reading different types of books, so we'll have to see. Any other thoughts on One Golden Summer? Does anybody know any other books by Carley Fortune that don't take place on the lake? Somebody said that she has some books that take place in Toronto. I'm also reading a book about Stevie Nicks that just came out. Ooh, that's fun. I know a biography would be fun to read as well. Acknowledgements. So for those of you who read both books, do you have a favorite? Did you like the first book or did you like One Golden Summer? I'm curious if you had a favorite, if you read them both. Read all her books. They're all good. Okay. Oh, it says questions for every summer after fans. How have your feelings about Charlie changed? Have your feelings about Charlie changed between reading the first book and this one? The author said that people would come up to her at book signings and say, Charlie needs a happy ending. Like, you need to write a book for Charlie. People were very invested in him, which I was surprised to hear because I didn't get the impression that he was like the good guy in that book. So I was curious to hear that. I thought that was interesting. Any other thoughts? Biographies will be awesome. Perhaps a biography on Emily Bronte. Well, what's that one that was recommended about Eyre After? Oh, and maybe this is specific to Jane Eyre. Yeah, after I read Pride and Prejudice, I picked up a few books about Jane Austen, and then I got into Charlotte Bronte. I mean, the history of the Bronte sisters and the environment that they grew up in is just fascinating to me, and their writing is so great. And I did listen to the Audible version and read at the same time, but when you have a great narrator reading these classics, it makes such a difference. It's wonderful because they read it with the proper accents and the dialect of the different places in the story. And like Joseph in Wuthering Heights, if you just read how he speaks, it's like jargon. It doesn't even make sense. But then when you hear the narrator speak it, it makes such a difference. So sometimes the Audible version is fantastic. How do all of you feel in the chat about Audible? Are you more of a reader, like a book, Kindle, or Audible? What is your preference? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious. I tend to lean towards Audible a lot, just out of time. I listen when I get ready in the morning. It helps me go to sleep at night. I could do a Kindle at night too, but then I swear I fall asleep faster if I'm reading than if I'm listening. We have a couple, book or Kindle. That's what you like. I cannot get through an audiobook. Oh, that's interesting. Love the idea of comparing a classic with a modern take on it. Don't have any recommendations, but love the idea. Oh, that's fun. Like a modern version of a classic. They're definitely out there. I can do some digging on that, Debbie. I need to read about Charlotte Bronte now. I do both books and Audible. That's me. Trying to embrace Audible. It's hard as a former teacher. I get that. It is a different experience. I think it is. And in fact, that's what I'm finding with Wuthering Heights. I probably listened to 75% of this and read about 25%. But now that the Audible version, now that it's over, I want to go back and read certain parts that are so iconic to the story that I'm like, oh, I have to read that with my eyes. I'll always say I need to like go back and like read all the details. I'm also known for like listening in the car when my husband's driving, and then I'll read along with it. That's when I really retain it the best. But for me, I had to get over thinking that like an Audible wasn't reading. I mean, it's not like technically reading, but I wanted to get the stories and it's opened it up. It's opened up the world to me. So I love Audible books because it leads me to reading and just hearing all these stories. And it's just been really fun. So I definitely, quote unquote, read more because of Audible. Um, I just do. I just do. I love it. Yes, Julie. I just did a fall favorites video on my other channel last night, and one of my favorite things in the fall is to walk aimlessly through bookstores and to collect special editions of certain books. And I got this book at TJ Maxx for $12.99. This is Chiltern. That's who makes these books, and they are gorgeous. They have all the classics, and I like that it is so compact, but it's still a hardcover book, and it's beautiful. I like this because I can take this with me in the car. I also own the illustrated version of Wuthering Heights and Jane Eyre because they have all sorts of inserts inside, like the family tree and where the Bronte sisters grew up, and maps of different things and botanicals like that relate to the story. And that is just a beautiful version. I love the illustrated version of the classics. I have two. I want to get Pride and Prejudice too. However, it's bulky, so I don't like throwing it in my bag like this one. So this was great. Okay, this is a really good point. You say that they narrate too slow. I 1000% agree with you. You can adjust the speed on Audible. So I listen to everything at least on 1.2. And sometimes when they're really painfully slow, I'll go to 1.5. If I go past 1.5, it sounds like the chipmunks, but I always listen to 1.2. And when I go back to just normal speed, I'm like, oh, for the love of God, please pick up the pace. It's painfully slow. So I agree with you. You can adjust the speed, and it makes such a difference. Excuse me. The other thing that I love about Audible is you can set a timer at night. So I'll think that I'm awake and I'm going to listen to an hour on Audible. And the next morning I'll wake up and 12 chapters would have gone by that like played through the night. So when I first started doing Audible, I didn't realize that there was a timer. So now I will set the timer for just 15 minutes because sometimes I am out so fast, but then it stops. And then other times it will be over and I'll be like, oh, I'm still awake. And then I'll set it for another 15 minutes. So at the very least, I know I only have to go back 15 minutes. But yeah, that's another reason I do love Audible for that reason. So a lot of fun. All right, friends. Well, it is 8:57. I appreciate you all being here tonight. If there's any other comments you want to make or questions about One Golden Summer, let us know in the comments. I think I got some strong enthusiasm for a couple of classics with our crew here tonight, which is exciting. And we'll try to find a cozy book or like a little thriller that we'll vote on. But definitely Wuthering Heights and Frankenstein sound really exciting. I'm very excited to read Frankenstein. I feel like I was saying to Laura, when it comes to classics, I use this as my biggest example is I never knew who Mr. Darcy was. And I heard reference to Mr. Darcy throughout my life, my adult life. And I didn't read Jane Austen until I didn't read Pride and Prejudice until last year. And it's like embarrassing, but I was 51 and I never watched the movie and I'd never read the book. And now that I've read Pride and Prejudice, there are signs of Jane Austen and Mr. Darcy and Pride and Prejudice everywhere. And I see them everywhere. And I feel like there's so many things in life that relate back to classics that it's kind of fun to read them. And then I feel it's like if you own a red car and then you see a red car everywhere, it's like that with the classics for me. Thank you, Lisa. I hope you guys had fun. I appreciate you being here, and stay tuned on Instagram for our book selections for next month, and be sure to subscribe if you want to follow along. I appreciate all of your input here, and I will see you next month. I'm very excited, and I will try to we'll try to get it like mid-October. We'll see. And I will promise to get better about my times here. Thank you all so much for being here, guys. Have a wonderful night. Take care. Happy reading. Bye.